Hey guys, welcome to week 4 of social distancing. It is what Christians call Holy Week, and today is, well, not for much longer, but it is Palm Sunday. And if you're a Christian, you know that means that that is the day that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, and everybody shouted with palm branches. And normally at our church, we will have like a big procession at the beginning of the service, but we didn't get to do that today because of social distancing. But you guys let me know if you wanted, or if you want to see, sorry, if you want to see like individual like Holy Week videos, like if you wanted me to talk about like what is what each day means, or like what it means to me, or like just leave it in the comments below, and we'll see about the response. So yeah, also today, again, not for much longer, but I wanted to hop on here super fast. Today is my cousin Levi's birthday, and he's a little mess, but we love him all the same. And yeah, so happy birthday, Levi. So yeah, just let me know about the Holy Week stuff, and we'll see what happens. Alright, thanks guys. Bye. Hello everyone. So it is now Thursday, April 9th, and so we have a few things to talk about. First off, I know you guys are probably wanting an update on Leo. He is doing much better today. His spirits were up, and his attitude was better. Just, and that's a sign that it may not be the virus. He still is having symptoms, so just pray that those go away. But y'all's prayers and thoughts have worked and are continuing to work, so please keep praying for Leo. And also thank God that he is doing better. So that's an update on Leo. Thing number 2 is my brother Garrison has started a YouTube channel called Get Off My Chest, and I will link it in the description. And it is basically where he talks about various topics, like from like society and things like that. So you guys should go subscribe to him, and yeah, so go subscribe to Garrison, and we'll talk about thing number 3, which today is another Holy Week day. And if you're a Christian, like, one of the most important things in Christianity is communion. And people often wonder, like, where does that come from? Like, what is that? Like, and what is the breakdown of today? What is supposed to be going on today? Like, how does that even work? Okay, well, communion is where we take part, not, I wouldn't say in the literal, yeah, body and blood of Jesus, but obviously something that is very symbolic of that. Because we're not eating Jesus, but like that's not, we'll explain that later. But so obviously we use bread for the body and wine or grape juice for the blood. Our church uses wine. And that's the only place that I drink. I say drink because I don't actually drink. I dip the wafer in the chalice, which is like a fancy cup. And yes, it does have alcohol in it, but it's not like, I'm not like, throwing one back. I'm just dipping and like, yeah. But like, what is the reasoning behind that? So, okay. So the day before Jesus died on the cross for everybody's sins, um, he went to an upper room with his disciples for the Passover feast. And he obviously had like the unleavened bread and the wine, and he used those as illustrations for what was going to be happening the next day. He was trying to tell his disciples what was going to be happening. And the first thing he did, though, and I think people often miss this part, is he got a bowl of water and he washed his disciples' feet. Now, people are like, what? Like, think about it like this. Okay, first off, washing people's feet or touching people's feet in that culture, by the way, Jesus lived 2,000 years ago, like on earth. And so, washing people's feet in that culture was like, you were stooping like really, really, really low. And doing anything with feet. And like, I mean, people can probably understand that, because like, who wants to touch people's feet? You know, except their own. Like, even I think my own feet are pretty gross sometimes. But, but he took the servant, like his servant's heart, and washed his disciples' feet. And then he had dinner with them. And he talked about different things at dinner. He talked about how the bread is his body and the wine is his blood. Yeah. And then he talked about how one of the disciples, which we'll get to later in the story, was going to betray him, and how that goes down is a little bit different of a story. So we'll stick right here in the upper room for now, and then we'll go outside the upper room in a little bit. So also he talked about just different things, and how he is preparing a place for us in heaven, and you know, how he's going to be crucified the next day. And you know, he was basically just breaking everything to his disciples. And that is recorded, most specifically, I would say, in the Gospel of John. So if you guys want to read that, start in, I think it's John 13 that it starts in. So it's like John 13 to 17 or 16. Yeah, go and check that out. So outside the upper room, after dinner is over, everybody kind of goes home, and Peter, James, and John, Jesus's closest buddies, you know, disciples, go with him to, some call it the Mount of Olives, which it is, and some call it the Garden of Gethsemane, which it is. He goes there, and Judas, who was going to betray him, has gone to the temple to get 30 pieces of silver in order to betray him and turn him over to both the chief priests and the Roman guards, so he could be arrested, basically. And Jesus tells Peter, James, and John multiple times, like, stay awake, you need to watch, you need to pray, you need to do this and that. And they end up falling asleep a few times. And Jesus, like, it's like when your mom comes in your room and, like, shakes you awake, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And also, Jesus is praying off by himself. And one of the things that Jesus says to God, which is his Father, is like, if there's any possible way that you can take this cup from me, let it be done. But I also want your will to be done. What he's saying there is like, if there's any way I can get out of this, he doesn't want to do it, obviously, because he knows there's a lot of pain involved. But he also knows that it's necessary, so he's willing to do it. I think there's a difference between wanting to do something and being willing to do it. So, and that's definitely important to recognize there. So anyway, they're in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus is praying. Peter, James, and John are sleeping, and they're all kind of brought back together by torches, and Judas bringing some guards along to arrest Jesus, and there's kind of like a little scuffle. And well, first Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss, and people are like, what the heck, kisses are amazing. Like, well, the sign that Judas was giving the guards is like, the person who I'm gonna kiss is the person that you're gonna arrest. And yeah, so he betrays him. And by the way, it doesn't like totally like go full out and kiss him. Yeah, well, not what you're thinking. It's like a peck on the cheek, and it's like, hey, here's your guy. So yeah, because that would have been really weird if it was like a, yeah. But anyway, so there's a scuffle. Obviously, Peter is the one who is like willing to fight for people, and he's kind of the fighter of the group. And so there's a scuffle, and Jesus is put in handcuffs, and he's being beaten, and in the middle of that, Peter takes out his knife and chops off a soldier's like ear. And he's thinking he's defending Christ, and Jesus, like, he literally puts the ear back on and is like, put your knife away. Like, what is your problem? Like, nobody should live by the sword alone. You've got to calm down. And Peter's like, oh, I'll fight for you all the time. I don't want this to go down and all this. And Jesus is like, well, I hate to break it to you, bro, but before the rooster crows 3 times this coming morning, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter's like, what? So yeah, Jesus gets arrested, and he's taken to court, where he's basically tried by the high priest, and he goes to different places where, like, people are like, well, maybe he's innocent, maybe he's guilty. Like, it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. But the chief priests are like convinced that he is guilty because he has like broken their law, which he hasn't. He's broken their law, which is like a fake law in my mind. It's like a really stupid law. It was really stupid specific things and really like bad misinterpretations. Like, we looked at it back in freshman year of high school with Mr. Janicek, if you guys like remember him at all. And it was, it's like really stupid. It's like, really, honestly, he broke your stupid law. Like, really, like, all you're saying is that your butt hurt about it. But weirdly enough, this is what we need to get to heaven. Like, for the chief priest, in a way, to be butthurt about it. Like, that's at least the start of the situation. And the foundation of why Jesus got crucified, besides the fact that we're all sinners. But in terms of like the culture and like why was he crucified in the culture, like what was the whole aspect of that, that was the foundation of it. Like they were so bothered by him in different situations. Like there was one time where he like healed somebody on the Sabbath. Like he healed somebody's blindness, and it was like seriously, like you're telling God not to do his work on a day that you kind of made up rules about. Like, it's so dumb. But anyway, so yeah, he's arrested. He talks to the high priest, and Peter and John is like right there with him the entire time, and so John will come up tomorrow as well. But so Peter goes there, and he's kind of like staying outside the court, and he's kind of waiting, and like some people come up and talk to him, and they're like, you know Jesus, right? You're like one of his disciples. And he's like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And then another guy comes up and is like, oh yeah, I know you. Like, I know you called Jesus teacher and all this stuff. And he's like, what? I don't know the guy. And then a girl comes up and is like, yeah, I know you. You look really, really, really familiar. Like, you know, and you walk around with Jesus. It's so great. And Peter's like, I'm telling you, I do not know him. And then the rooster crows, and Peter's like, holy crap, I just did it. You know, like I denied him 3 times. And obviously that was like a hard thing for him. But Judas, after all that, like, I don't know that he was totally sorry about it, but he felt some guilt. And he basically was like, he returned all the money back to the chief priest and all, and he was like, you know, you can have your money back, all this stuff, like, and then he runs off and kills himself. Like, and that's kind of where the Maundy Thursday story ends, is with Jesus in court, and Judas killing himself, and Peter denying Jesus, and John watching his best friend essentially get on the road to death, which tomorrow is gonna be quite a day, guys, because we're gonna get even further into the story, and we're actually gonna be talking about Jesus dying on the cross for us. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little talk, and I hope that you enjoy Garrison's YouTube channel, and I hope that people come to Christ through these stories. Like, I'm not trying to make the story look terrible, or because like it was terrible. I'm not trying to make it anything less than it is, you know. I may accidentally like say something wrong, but like, I mean, the general like meaning of the story is, you know, yeah, I'm telling it like it is. And so things kind of go on Maundy Thursday from like super calm to like things go from like 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. Like, people say that a lot, I know, but like it's true. Like chaos happens, and it kind of doesn't stop. And so I just like, here's the thing, is Jesus didn't fight arrest. He didn't try to be like, oh, like, you know, people can rescue me from this. Like, he knew like everything was in his control, and you know, he's like, okay guys, like, I have everything under control, and like through this virus, like, I want you guys to remember that. And he does have everything under control. And that's like really important, because if you don't like understand that somebody has something in their control, like it just your mind just gets blown. But yeah. So again, thank you for all your prayers for Leo. Go subscribe to Garrison, and thank you for listening to this little TED Talk, I guess. Fake TED Talk, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a TED Talk. But, you know, people say that all the time, like as a joke, so I kind of was playing along. But anyway, stay tuned for tomorrow, because tomorrow's gonna be like, if you guys can't handle like heavy stuff, like, and, you know, just, you know, and, you know, hearing of people getting beat up and things like that, then I would suggest, like, you, like, fast forward. I'm not gonna say don't watch it, because, like, this is the part that bridges the gap between us and God. And people need to hear that. But if you guys can't handle, like, blood and guts, like, what you need to hear is the general stuff, is, like, you know, so just brace yourself, you know. Alright. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry I'm looking weird places. I have ADHD, so I kind of look all over the place. But I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, bye. Alright, everyone. It is now Friday, April 10th. And yesterday was Maundy Thursday, so today is Good Friday. This is the day where Jesus died on the cross for our sins. And yesterday I kind of broke down like the general gist of the story of Maundy Thursday, and I was like, oh, I have to stop kind of in the middle of it because it carries into Good Friday. And I can't remember where I stopped. But I think it was like with Jesus in court and Peter denying Jesus and all that stuff. So I'll kind of start from there, and then I'll just kind of go forward. You may have already heard this, you may not have, I don't know. But so Peter denies Jesus 3 times, and then the rooster crows. And then Peter is just in hysterics, right? Like, he's upset because he just denied Jesus, right? And Jesus, obviously hasn't been one of the religious leaders' favorite humans. Even though he's probably our favorite human, I hope that he's our favorite human. He wasn't one of theirs. And so, they were looking for a way to get him killed, but it was Passover. So they're like, well, we can't really stone him because that would make us impure for Passover, which is kind of ironic, and we'll come back to that. But they decide to send him, I think, initially to Pilate, and then Pilate talks to him and sends him over to Herod, and then Herod sends him back to Pilate. Each time they ask him if he's the king of the Jews, and I think with Pilate he doesn't really respond. And with Herod, he's like, yeah. Either that or it's the other way around. And so Pilate is like, okay, well, this guy doesn't really have anything wrong with him. Like, I don't see anything wrong with him. But, you know, I think in order to kind of keep my place in the, you know, in the government and with the religious leaders, I need to flog him. So Jesus goes and gets flogged and beaten. And, like, flogging is a little graphic. If you've ever seen The Passion of the Christ, like, some people have thrown up because, like, I heard today, yeah, that had happened because it's so intense. Other people look away because they can't handle it, or they see their sin being placed on Christ, and it bothers them, as very well it should. It definitely bothers me, and so that's, yeah. So he basically gets beaten almost to death, and then they take him in front of the people because during Passover, Caesar allows the governor to release a prisoner. Yeah, that has been captive for a while, and so they get to choose between Jesus and Barabbas, who's a murderer. And I can't remember if we talked about this, like how quickly people can turn on God. And it was just less than a week after Palm Sunday, which you guys saw, and they celebrated saying Hosanna, Hosanna. In less than a week later, they're like shouting for his death, like crucify him, Jesus, and they choose to release Barabbas. And they want to crucify Jesus because the religious leaders kind of influenced them and riled them up. And they were like, he's not our king. We don't have any other king but Caesar, blah, blah, blah. And so Jesus is sentenced to crucifixion. And so basically, crucifixion in my mind is the worst possible death that anyone could ever die. It's horrific and painful and slow. And that's like the opposite of if somebody's going to die, that's the opposite of what we want for them, right? We always want like a quick, easy, we don't want it to last long. But this lasted a long time. People were up there for hours, maybe even days before they actually died. And Jesus was up there for a few hours, and he said some things on the cross that like are very important. I was gonna say iconic, but I think it's both. Things that we need to take into account. He asks, like, even as he's on the cross, like, he asks for our forgiveness. Like, he could have said, oh, you guys are evil. You guys are, y'all nailed me to a cross and beat me to death, like, and put a crown of thorns on my head and spit on me and mock me and whatnot. But he didn't. Like, he's like, hey, God, Father, can you forgive them? Because they don't know what they're doing. So he asked for our forgiveness. And we need to kind of step down from our pride at times and also ask for forgiveness. I know I need to. So the next thing he says is I'm going to refer to the Bible because that's the best possible source for this. He says, this is in Matthew 27 if you guys want to find it. He says, he says to the robber on his left. Well, I think it's on his left. there were two robbers that were crucified with him. And one of them is like, hey, well, you're the Messiah, aren't you? Like, why don't you save yourself and us and, just fix it? And the irony is, like, he is fixing it. And the other robber recognizes that. And is like, you realize that our punishment is just, but this guy, like, he hasn't done anything wrong. Like, he's basically paying for what we did at the same time that we are. And he's also paying for the other sins of the world, And he looks at Jesus and he sees him as a king. And he says, look, Jesus, I want you to remember me when you go into your kingdom. And Jesus looks at him and says, okay, well, I promise you, today you're going to be with me in paradise. And he forgives the sins of that criminal, and he says, boy, you're saved. Like, you had like a little bit of faith, and it saved you just now. And then the third thing that he says is he looks at his disciple, John, and he also looks at his mother, Mary. And at this point, you guys know the Christmas story, Mary and Joseph, all of that. And Joseph has probably already died at this point. And so Mary's a widow. And usually the oldest son is the one to take care of her. But the oldest son, at this point, is hanging on a cross. And there's nobody else because Jesus' brothers aren't, believers in him. There's nobody else to really take care of her. And so he looks at John, who is like basically his brother. He says, look, this is your mom, and mom, this is your son. Like, he's basically saying, John, take care of her, and Mary, let him take care of you. And he's basically taking care of his mom while hanging on a cross, which is unbelievable. And that it's just so incredible. The fourth thing he says is kind of a plea for comfort and for, and just for, because he's in a lot of pain and now everybody's abandoned him, and he's calling out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He wants his father. Everyone else has abandoned him. He's alone on the cross. And I think also one of the things that contributes to God the Father forsaking his son for a bit is all of our sins, which separate us from God, were placed upon him. And so he now has all the sins placed upon him so that we can see God, so that we can be with God. God cannot interact. Like, God can't, like, he doesn't like sin, obviously. Like, that's not, like, he can't, and so he obviously forsakes his own son because of all the sins that have been placed on his son. And, so Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then this is interesting. This word is interesting. Is he says, I'm thirsty. Or I thirst. Which, like, here's the thing, is they gave him, like, gall, which is, like, vinegar and, like, it's disgusting. And what it was, though, was essentially, like, a painkiller. And it kind of made the process last longer. So Jesus willingly took the painkiller and what made the process last longer so that he could complete his mission for us, you know? That's absolutely, it's just absolutely incredible. And, again, he's bleeding out, he's got a crown of thorns on his head, he's nailed to a cross. Sorry. When you're on the cross, like, your chest is, like, pushed inward so that your lungs can't get as much air. Yeah, it's terrible, but he's willing to make that process longer, for us. And that's just a beautiful thing. And then we get to the sixth thing that he says. And he says it's finished. Like, his mission has been complete. He has done what he is supposed to do, and he is declaring it is a statement of victory. Like, it is finished. Like, that's, like, he just saved us from our sins. And that's what he came to do. He did heal. He did raise people from the dead. He did make fish come out of the water. But his ultimate mission was to save people from their sin. And he completed that. He said, he said, it's finished. And then, because it was finished, there was nothing really left for him to do. And so he said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And then he died. And that was also when the victory was won. Salvation for us is based on all of that. Now, there's a movie that I grew up watching. It's a VeggieTales movie. And it's called An Easter Carol. And in it, the main character has been taken into a church. It's a dream, but like in the dream, he's been taken into the church, and he has explained to him the story of Jesus and what Jesus did, and it was like up until Jesus' death, right? And the thing is, Jesus dying for us gave us access to God. But in order for him to really conquer death and to give us the hope that we can live forever with God, he had to rise again. And without that, the main character says, well, where's the hope in that, you know? And that's a good point. Like, where is the hope in just death? Without Easter, which is 2 days from now, like, where is the hope, you know? 2 days from now, we will be celebrating, even though we're in the comfort of our own homes, we will be still celebrating the resurrection of the Lord. And we have to remember that, because yes, Good Friday is, well, it's good because Jesus is willing to do what he did for us, be beaten and flogged, and, you know, all this, and nailed to a cross, yeah. And that's why it's Good Friday. Those things that happened to him were terrible. And it's because we were terrible too. Like, we were bad to him. And that's what nailed him to the cross, basically. But, and the fact that he died for us to give us that salvation, that's amazing. But obviously what he went through was terribly sad. But we also have to remember that 2 days from now, we celebrate Jesus rising from the dead. Like, he's not gonna stay dead long. And again, he has everything under control. And again, as we're going through this virus, like, he had the whole situation under control. Even when he said it's finished, like he had, that was a statement, like, this situation's still under my control, like, you know? And the coronavirus is still in his hands and under his control. And so we can trust him to do what we think is impossible, but nothing is impossible with God. And as we go into Easter, we have to remember that. So on Sunday, things are going to become more lighthearted, things are going to be happier, and I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Like, Easter's one of my... Okay, sorry, the camera battery died. I think I left off with telling you that Easter's one of my favorite holidays. I just love Easter because it's so jubilant, and we have to remember what Jesus did for us, and, you know, he rose again, and so, that's why it's happy. Like, right now, it's all kind of heavy, and, you know, it should be, because, you know, crucifixion is the worst possible death to die, and Jesus did it for us. The good part of that is that he was willing to do that for us, to give us salvation. But what makes it really super jubilant and hopeful and great for us is that he rose again, and he's not dead, and he's still living, and I'm so excited to say that. Like, that's amazing. So obviously we'll talk more on Sunday, and it'll be like really happy and like talking about how Jesus rose from the dead and all that stuff. But for now, just know that Jesus really, really loves you, because he would not have done this particular thing if he didn't love you. And I gotta say, nobody loves you more than your Creator. So just remember that. And if you're thinking like, nobody loves me, nobody cares, well, there's someone who does care. And even though you can't see him right now, he still cares, and he still loves you. And he was willing to die a terrible death, the worst death for you. And so don't think for a minute that nobody loves you, because someone does love you, and they were willing to die a terrible death for you. So, all right, I know I was pretty repetitive, but it's really important that you guys know that. So, all right, I think I'm gonna head to bed now. So just remember everything I talked about, and we'll see you guys maybe tomorrow, but we'll do another talk on Sunday. All right, we'll see you guys later. All right, bye. Hello, everyone. Sorry I did not record yesterday, which was Easter Sunday. Kind of got a little interesting up in our house. We dressed up, we did church, we went for a drive, we took naps, we did egg salad, we talked to family. It was like all this stuff like meshed into one one big interesting day. Oh yeah, we had a really great breakfast too, which was like cheese grits and eggs and biscuits, which, you know, I didn't take part in, sorry. I was too full. The cheese grits were very good, and I had too many of them. Um, but, oh, there was also bacon too. So, I kind of accidentally forgot to record. So, this is the talk that was supposed to happen yesterday, and it's happening today. So this is going to wrap up last week's vlog, and tomorrow, which is Tuesday, we'll start this week's vlog. So just, yeah, so just bear with me here as I try to get this up, yeah, for you guys pretty quick. So, the story where we left off was Good Friday, and Jesus had died, and, you know, he had been buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, which is known now as the Garden Tomb. Like, it can be seen in Israel. I want to make it clear, though, that for me, I don't need to go and see that to have proof that Jesus died and rose again. I would like to go and see it. You know, it sounds like a cool thing to go and see, you know, and witness where Jesus walked and died and, you know, and rose again, and that's just the nerd in me talking. And also, I think it's also my love for Jesus talking too. But for me, it's not like a proof thing. It's not like I have to show you this, or this has to be shown to me to prove anything. So it's just a cool thing that, you know, I would like to go and see. So Jesus has been buried. Obviously, he died pretty close to the Sabbath, which for them was Saturday, like way back in the day when Jesus was walking the earth and, you know, living and dying and doing all that. And so yeah, they wanted to quickly bury him before the Sabbath because the Sabbath was a holy day. Obviously, we talked about how Jesus healed somebody on the Sabbath and irritated the Jewish leaders. And, you know, so they wanted to bury him very quickly before then. Nicodemus helped bury him. And Joseph of Arimathea gave Jesus his tomb, basically, to be buried in. So he was in that tomb, and then on Sunday, there was basically an earthquake. And Jesus rose from the dead, I think, during that. And then there was an angel sitting on the stone. The stone was rolled back. And everything was just glorious and happy. I told you this story has a happy ending. But on that morning, 3 women, Jesus' mother, Mary Magdalene, and I can't remember if there was another one, or who the other one was. But they all went to the tomb to, like, take care of Jesus' body, because, like, their thought was, like, once you're in the tomb for, like, 3 days or so, like, you're really dead and you're gonna stink, right? So, they went to go and put spices on him, so, he wasn't gonna, stink. Well, when they got there, the tomb was empty, and the cloths were folded up, and it kind of looked like someone had taken the body. But that wasn't the case. The angels talked to the women. They said that Jesus had risen again, and it was a happy situation. Mary Magdalene, though, was kind of confused by the whole, like, where is Jesus' body situation, she was weeping, and the angels asked her, and this, Jake, if you're watching, I'm referencing your sermon. The angels asked her, like, in a legit question, like, why, like, what is, like, why are you weeping? Like, this doesn't make sense, right? Like, why are you weeping? Because the angels don't understand things the way that we do, so it's, well, or let me reverse that. We don't understand things the way the angels do. And yeah, so they ask, why are you weeping? Why are you weeping? And Mary's like, well, and then, like, they're like, why do you seek the living among the dead? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you upset? And then Jesus comes behind her and is like, why are you weeping? He's trying to get her to understand. This is not like this is a rhetorical question. This is like, why, like, you understand, like, and then she says, well, she thinks he's the gardener, which, I mean, honestly, for me, like, in John 10, Jesus says, like, that he's the good shepherd and his sheep know his voice. Like, for me, like, I would know Jesus' voice. And I'm kind of surprised that she didn't know Jesus' voice. But anyway, so it took him saying her name, Mary, like, and then she turns around and gets it. Like, she understands, like, Jesus is alive. He's not dead. Like, this is a happy, like, this is a happy occasion. And not a sad one. Nobody took the body. Jesus has a new body, a resurrection body. And, but I believe he still had the same voice, like, because, they were able to talk with him and not be overly confused, meaning the disciples. So anyway, back to the conversation with Mary. So he tells Mary, go and tell everyone that I'm alive. Like, don't hold on to me, because, like, I'll be back. Don't worry. And he will be back soon. So you guys need to be ready. But we don't need to worry. So, like, it's okay. He's saying, it's okay, I'll come back. But what I need you to do right now is I need you to go back to wherever the brothers are, meaning the disciples, and I need you to tell them what's going on, basically. And she does, and Peter, man, Peter's been a very vital character in this story. Peter and John go, so is John, yeah. I just remembered that John was a vital character as well, because John was right there when Jesus was dying. And so they run to the tomb to see what's going on. And Peter gets there first. Well, yeah, Peter gets there first, and he's hesitant to go into the tomb. But John catches up with him and just runs straight into the tomb. And then Peter goes in there. And they're like, wow, this could actually be true, And they go and they go back and tell the people, and that's kind of where this particular story stops. I think I'm going to continue. There's one more part of the story that is important for next week, next Sunday. But in the meantime, like, just know that Jesus is alive and he's taking care of us, especially during this virus. And I wanted to show you this little plate that I have. Excuse my computer, but it says she confidently trusts the Lord to take care of her. And I believe that we can do that because Jesus is taking care of us right now. Even though it doesn't seem like it, he still has this all under control. He had this entire Easter situation under control. Like, why can't he have this virus under control? Like, so we really need to trust him to take care of us. And yeah, happy Easter, everyone. So stay tuned for next week. There's one little part of the story that I haven't told yet, and I'm saving it for next week because it's part of next week. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can edit this video for you guys, and then next couple days get it up so you can see all this Holy Week stuff. And hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you guys want me to do it next year too, I totally will. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.